back to the Massive Impact Podcast. We've got a very special guest with us today. It's Dr. William Madden. Welcome to the show. And tell us, where are you today?
I am in beautiful Pompano Beach, Florida, just north of Fort Lauderdale.
Very nice. Rub it in. Rub it in. Well,
You're welcome down anytime.
I appreciate it. I'll have to take you up on that offer. So we have known each other, going back to, I believe, 2006. And we're going to jump into here in a minute his current role. He's actually the co-founder of Whole Brain Consulting. On this podcast, we talk about things and people and services and products that offer massive impact. And you and I have intersected many, many times in both of our careers. Your firm offers, in my opinion, massive, massive impact. But before we get to that, the whole brain stage of your career, what is your PhD in? And tell us a bit about your background as well as your journey to this point.
Yeah, so my PhD is in ethics. No laughing, consultant with one in ethics. I get those jokes all the time. Put them in the comment section. They'll be funny.
Nice.
No, but I started out actually as a food entrepreneur. I was the guy who figured out how to keep cotton candy fresh in a see-through bag. And then when I got done with that, I went to work for Nestle in alternative markets for the kids' candy group. And had an absolute blast. Great job. Didn't realize how good it was till later in my career. And they merged that in with mainline Nestle, and working for a small division of a company and then working for the main company are two significantly different experiences. I did not enjoy the working for the larger organization. A lot of different levels of freedom to get the job done. So I quit and went backpacking through Europe for a bit with my, at the time, wife. Mm-hmm. I figured neither her nor I had ever done something that irresponsible before, so we figured now's the time to start. So we did that. I came back and just kind of haphazardly wound up going to work for a co-packer. When I did my initial interview for the job, it was as a favor to a friend who needed a third to go in for an interview, and my resume was impressive enough to be the third. He's like, just don't embarrass me. Go in there, be the warm seat, be yourself, and, they're going to pick one of the other two guys because they're both in co-packing. I'm like, all right, sounds good. I got nothing to do this afternoon for a few hours. So I went in, not caring about getting the job. And sure enough, that's when you get the job. So, he called me. He's like, what the hell did you do? I'm like, nothing. I was funny, charismatic. I even wore a suit. Like, I combed my hair for this. Like, we're good. And he goes, well, they want to go to offer with you. I was like, oh, well, that I didn't see coming. And so they went to offer, and I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do this. It's actually where I met you. I think it was on my line for a large strategic, and really dug into operations and everything like that, dug deep into it. Our compensation structure was sort of based off of that. Mm-hmm. So then I went on from there to be employee number 5 at Harside, saw them through a couple of mergers. And then I decided I wanted to get more involved in a different industry. So moving over to ingredients, and I was the key account manager for Fonterra, which is Nestle's largest vendor in the world. I looked after the U.S. I mean, they have global relationships owning factories together and stuff. I mean, we did $1 billion together.
Wow.
Yeah. And I started Whole Brain, at the time Right Brain, as a side hustle. And worked really, really, really well. Had a divorce, decided if I'm going to go on my own, now's the time to do it, and went full bore into it. And what I realized is if you don't suck at your job, everybody wants you. So here we are 10 years later, 1,200 clients, team of 25. really enjoy life. I have a great business partner, Brandon Hernandez. And yeah, it's pretty much all I have the best life you could ever have. I get to help people and make a decent living doing it.
Very cool. So is it fair to say, because kind of hearing that story, which I know that story, I know your past, but is it fair to say that you sort of fell into food given the cotton candy journey?
Yeah. So basically, the way that I'm trying to figure out the PG-13 version of, how I
Not
got
you.
into it. Yeah, let's just say I went to Georgia Tech and we didn't have a lot of social life there. I mean, I think at the time it was 4 to 5 to 1 girl to guy ratio. So you wind up with a lot of free time. Um, and I had roommates and we used to have a Saturday night movie night. Yeah, like I said, a lot of free time. And we would go to our local Kroger and they had the video section. So we'd pick whatever the new video was. And they had these cotton candy spinner racks. And we must have eaten 4 or 5 bags while we're there. And I go, well, if somebody could figure out how to keep this fresh, they'd rule the world. Actually, I said it about 4 days later when I was pulling out a box of Cheerios and this congealed mass hit me in the head. And I asked my roommates, one was a aerospace textile engineer, the other one was computer science and textiles. And I was like, whose chemistry project is this? And they're like, moron, it's your cotton candy that you quote unquote saved for later. How long did you think you could save it? And I was like, well, I didn't think much about it when I was putting it away and I kind of forgot it was there. So that's on me. But I'm like, if somebody could figure out how to keep this fresh, it could rule the world. Well, when you say that to textile engineers from Georgia Tech, it's like challenge accepted.
Accepted.
And so they figured out a solution, and I still cannot tell what the solution is to anybody out there in the world. But after about 6 months, the product was still fresh. So I was like, well, there's a business here. I'm like, guys, we're going into business. And they're like, no, we're not. This was just proving that it could be done because we wanted to win the argument. And I decided, I'd go into it. How hard can the food industry be? In case anybody's wondering, it's very, 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 very hard. And it's gotten harder over the last 30 years. A lot harder.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Thanks for that background. 90%, probably 95% of my followers are going to know what a co-packer is. But for that 5 to 10%, could you explain that?
Yeah, so I actually wrote a couple of books on this subject area. The first book is designed more for people that are getting into the industry. So it has here's what to expect, here's who is, here's what the difference is, here's how the names came out. Originally, a contract manufacturer and a contract packager were two different things. One just packaged the thing, so you need 1 ounce boxes of, Cheerios. The packer would do that because he was set up to do all the oddball stuff, blister packs, things like that. Sure. And manufacturer was set up to manufacture the product. So they would take it from corn and make it corn flakes. Now, over the years, they both kind of merged together. Packers were like, wait, I can make real money making something. And guys who were making something go, well, why am I sending this out to pack it? I might as well do it here. And so they kind of merged together. So they're used synonymously now. Mm-hmm. But really what it is somebody who makes and or packages a product on the behalf of another food company. So right. You look on the back and you'll see distributed by, manufactured for. Those are people who generally use a third-party manufacturing. Manufactured by are generally people who manufacture on their own.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that explanation. So again, sticking to our theme here, I believe you guys add massive impact. Kind of go into what that impact is. Who is your perfect client? What do they do in revenue, range-wise? And what's your guys' approach? What could a potential client expect?
So really what it is we have offerings of bits and pieces, and we have offerings of everything. So, and we deal with all size companies. When I got started in this, and my specialization was smaller food companies. what I realized is that when they were set up correctly, they became larger food companies. And then they would get bought by people. And then they would sit there on platforms and be like, oh, I couldn't do it unless it was with this company. And then all of a sudden, I become the popular kid at the party. Um, so it really, really branched out. I mean, we do all but like three of the majors, but probably two of the majors. Yeah, it's two now because we signed one of them. Strategic food companies. And what we'll do is we'll source manufacturers. So, large, the people that kills bacteria and stuff, antiseptic, yeah, supplier, during the global pandemic needed considerable amount of volume. They hired my team in 30 days. We found 16 new sites for them. And they've been making the product for 100 years. Well, 95 years, but it's counting. Then we have supply chain demand planning. How much should you make? Where should you store it? How frequently you should produce? How frequently you should ship product over here. So that team will work with people where we are their entire operations department. And then other people are like, I need help with this. So we have a couple of strategics that have smaller business units that need to do upgrade planning. And so we help them design that. And then there's smaller companies that are like, look, I can't afford an ops team. And so we'll handle a plethora. Then we have outbound logistics. So companies will use us just to arrange their shipments and, getting the product where it needs to be. We have quality and food safety, which is a large side of our business. It's getting people ready for GFSI audits. When people fail GFSI audits, getting it fixed, doing pre-assessments. We also do we'll also do processing guides. So, a key is you go in and everybody thinks, oh, my co-man's going to set up my specifications, which is great, and they do, but you want from 3 to 6, right, on a scale from 1 to 10 for your product. A co-man's going to write it 1 to 10 because he wants everything he makes to go in a package and not have a problem. So you work together where it's like, okay, I can hit between 3 and 6 if I follow all these directions. Okay, I'll accept 3 to 6, and then you're getting the product that your consumer experience, your consumer is planning to experience on a consistent basis. At the same time, they have something that they can, actually produce with, and it becomes a step-by-step guide, sometimes including photos of acceptable, unacceptable, do this, don't do that. And so when you do have an issue and you're doing a root cause, you're able to say, oh, that's where we fell down, as opposed to where did we fall down, what's going on, what are the steps. So we do, if you think about it, everything ops related. We even have 70 family offices and private equity funds and venture funds that we do due diligence for. So
That's impressive. That's, quite a range. Now, what would you say to somebody that thinks, oh, we probably can't afford them, or they're going to want a 1-year long contract, or, I know I'm throwing 3 things at you, so they can't afford you, they, whole brain might want a long contract, or they just don't know where to start, but they think they need help.
So like I just had a call right before this, and they came in saying they needed A to Z. When we talked it through, they didn't. They needed help with certain parts that were self-inflicted. And then some were just the course of life, and everyone's going to have that same issue, regardless of whether you hire me or you hire somebody else. It's just an inherent issue with their product.
Okay.
And the potential suppliers out there for the product. So we went through and we said, all right, we're going to help you with this piece, and that's what this piece should cost. And we have flat fees as well as hourly. So some people come to us and are like, hey, we need help with this on an ongoing basis, or we have a one-time project that we need help with, and they need a flat fee for budgetary purposes. So we'll give them a flat fee, and the flat fee is generally a premium for the what I don't know. Then we have smaller companies that are like, look, we need somebody that'll guide our junior team members, we think we have this, we need other sets of eyes on it. Um, and those we'll do hourly. And really allows the client to control their costs. So if they use my guy as their psychologist, they have very high bills. If they use them sparingly, they have very low bills. It's really up to them on how we have that relationship. But I still have my first client from 10 years ago. Like,
Wow, that's
ready to
impressive.
talk to him 2 weeks ago. So we really believe in longevity. We're not perfect. We do screw up at times. We just don't do it on a frequent basis. And that's why people hire us. Our team members, the young buck has about a decade experience. The old timer has 60 years experience. So it's not like it's somebody right out of grad school that's saying, hey, I read in a book, here's how you should fix it. It's a guy who goes, yeah, here's how it's been broken my entire career, and here's how I fixed it my entire career. And, it might not work for you, but it worked for the 70 people before you. So odds are you're going to be number 71 and not the outlier.
Yeah.
So really, it's the experience with the team that we bring that is the value prop.
Yeah, and I really like that you guys stick to your lanes, meaning you guys get calls, maybe you want to share an example or two, and you guys will literally say, "We think we could do it, but think isn't good enough." We want to know, right?
So what we've done over the last decade is things that. So my father had a lot of interesting sayings, and one of them was, "If you're going to suck at it, don't do it." Right? He's
Right.
like, man's integrity is the only thing that he has, and he's in complete control of in his life. He goes, never give it up. It'll be the
Mhm.
most expensive thing that you have, but it'll be the most valuable thing that you ever have. And so we get asked, I mean, the if you're really good at one thing, they're like, can you do this? And you're like, no. So like most common thing is, can you do sales? And I'm like, no, I get it made. I get it where it needs to be. I don't get it on the shelf. I get it to the shelf.
Sure.
They'll want us to review like label claims. And I'm like, yeah, if it's an obvious you shouldn't do this, I can, but use one of these three lawyers. And they're like, how good are they? I'm like, they're the three I've recommended for years, right? Like,
Hmm.
pick one, they're all going to be great. Sometimes when it's highly specialized, I'm like, here's the lawyer to go to. When you start getting into vitamins and supplements, I have a firm that we
Hmm.
work with that used to do the class actions against vitamins and supplement companies. So reviewing your claims, they're kind of the only guys in town that you want to have do it, right?
Sure.
So we get a lot of things that are outside of our lane. When we do go into a new business area, we generally spend about 2 years refining it. So we don't go wide with it. We are very narrow. We make sure that it's going to work. We make sure that we're delivering the value proposition. And if we don't do it again. So we're very big on staying in our lane. Now, we do have certain strategic clients. One was an intimate project that came to us, and they were like, "Can you help out here?" I'm like, "Well, I have no experience in this." I'm like, "I'm pretty sure I'm going to suck." Like, like you don't like. I don't want another player on the field with you, but I
Hmm.
would rather have that than me screw this up. And they so politely said, "Well, the brand doesn't know what the hell they're doing either, so you can't do a worse job than they can." So we do have times where we're like, no, we're not going to be good at this. And people are like, yeah, nobody else is. I surprised even myself with the project, like really surprised myself on how well we did. And we discovered that there was a lot of transferable skill sets. So like planning how much to make, where to go, it's kind of a widget based
Hmm.
philosophy, whatever it is, it has certain parameters around it, but it's a transferable skill set. Sourcing comment is not a transferable skill set. If you're doing food, supplements, beverage, and you want to do hammers and nails, it's a completely different business. We say no no matter what. We're going to be really bad at it. So the key is staying within your lane, developing partners in adjacency to you that allow you to have best in class service. One thing that we entered into probably about 6 months ago, well, made more of a focus, we've been doing it for years, was
Mm-hmm.
bringing European and African companies and Australian, so basically foreign companies, to the US and acting as their infrastructure for the whole US. What we found is we had a blind spot, and then which was the invoicing, collections, that portion. I never wanted to do it. I still don't want to do it. It's a horrible side of the business. It's one of those things that doesn't look like a lot of work, but it is. And so we ran across another company by the name of Black Ink Ops. We wound up having a couple of clients in common, and I'm all about numbers. So I'm looking at overall utilization. What we realized is when they were involved, it decreased the amount of time that I had to spend on the project by like 17, 18%.
Mm-hmm.
What they found is that when we were involved, it decreased the amount of time that they needed dramatically. And the reason being is when you're in Europe, you're anywhere between +6 and plus, 10 from us here in the US. So it's a very slow conducting business.
Sure.
When you have your whole infrastructure here in the US, it becomes a lot quicker. So, like I tell my clients, read from the top down, not from the bottom up on your emails, because a lot of stuff will be, yeah, this was a problem. By the way, we solved it. Yeah, this was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, we solved it. So don't have the heart attack unless you
Right.
need to, But yeah, so that worked out really well. It worked out so well, we created a joint venture called Tag CPG that literally just brings foreign companies to the United States.
Very
And that's
cool.
their primary business, or our primary business.
Right. Very cool. Well, I really appreciate your time this morning. Want to be respectful of it. Want to close this out here in a few minutes, but any closing thoughts for somebody that is interested in what you do? Maybe there's still reservations, or I hear this a lot. Oh, we're really unique. They just won't understand my business. Kind of walk us through your guidelines there, how you would deal with that sort of thought process.
So we've done this 1,200 times. And while you view yourself as unique, we have a global view because we've done this for companies all over the world. So there are products that are truly unique. There are criteria out there that are truly unique, but a vast majority of it is people thinking that it's truly unique and not knowing how larger food companies work around those issues. So our team is very experienced. And if we're going to suck, we're going to let you know up front. I don't need to waste my time. I don't need to waste yours. Don't waste my time. I don't want to waste your money. But it's always a good idea to talk to us. I mean, we've had clients when it was cost savings initiatives where their distribution costs we brought down by 40%. It's not that we were geniuses. We just had a lot of experience doing it, and we had a lot of experience in that category, and we didn't do it forever, so we weren't pigeonholed. We had I had one guy that was beans and got to remove the astringency and needs a flow over kettle and all of this mess. Got on the kickoff call, and we were like, yeah, well, have you tried heating it? And they're like, no. We're like, how about this? Why don't we cancel this call? You try heating it, and we come back. And it went from 24 to 36 hours to an hour and 45 minutes. So
Significant.
we had one who hydrated nuts to dehydrate nuts, right? To make it softer on eating. And then, of course, we're at the kickoff call, and we were brought in by a strategic on this one with what should we do before we buy another $500,000 dehydrator on a business that's losing money hand over fist. And we went in, and the number one question is, why do you do that? Oh, well, we have to hit a certain moisture level. I'm like, we'll call this nut company and tell them the moisture level you need. And they're like, well, they can't do that. I'm like, yeah, they can. They're like, no, never can do it. I literally picked up my phone while I was on the call. I'm like, can you hit a 14 to 16% moisture level? He's like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, okay, well, here's the guy that you can do it. Here's his cell phone number. The whole damn line went just went dead. Like there were 20 people on it. I'm like, hello, was I disconnected? And they're like, and the guy's like, no, we're here. Can you repeat that cell phone number again? You know, I mean, it was probably a $100,000 project to fix it. But I looked at it, I'm like, well, the fix is pretty simple. Donate some money to Styles for Kids and we'll call it even. So there's stuff like that where people feel that it's really unique and they believe that it's really unique. It's just they don't know how to do it better. You know,
Right.
and there are products like we have a bar company, the way that they do it is truly unique. They have no choice but to make this themselves. No one will ever do it. And when I was talking with him, he's like, how will I scale this? I'm like, oh, you won't. You're going to spend tons of money making this product. And then they're going to hire somebody's going to buy it. They're going to hire somebody like me, and I'm going to make it a Cliff Bar. And he's like, what? I'm like, oh, yeah, I know how to streamline this. Just it won't be your product. So I know you won't go for it, right? Because it is a material change. But a guy who's just looking at dollars and cents, he's going to rip my arm off because it's like 30 points. So
Right.
we do have people with unique stuff, and then we have people who are just doing it wrong, and then we have people who it's not unique. Like a protein ball. Hey, I've done the project 8 times. Like
Yeah.
it's it's a tough category, and a lot of people have failed in it. And that one, it's more talking to them saying, "What is your better mousetrap? You know, what is it that you're going to do different and better than all the people that failed?" And I mean, I've seen the right mousetrap work
Hmm.
in companies that the leader in the category do 40 million and these kids 2.5 years out do 300 million. I've seen it where a business failed earlier and a later company came out with it with a better mousetrap, and their last investment round was years ago and it was over $100 million. You know, so like there is the better mousetrap, and if you were in that category and you call me and you're like, hey, but here's our better mousetrap, I'll let you know if I think it's a better mousetrap and you should do it. I also talk more people out of the food industry. My number one client that I've ever had from a revenue standpoint was a referral by a guy who I met on a plane. And he was like, here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm like, absolutely not. Do not do it. The world does not need it. I'm like,
Right.
do not dump your life savings in this. Like, open up a manhole cover, throw your money in it, close the manhole cover, and save 2 years of frustration and 5 years on your life span. And it was a year and a half earlier. And I get this email introduction. I'm like, who is this guy? And
Hmm.
I thought it was a gag or some scam with the level of company he was introducing me to. This is the kind of company that would hire a McKinsey or a Bain Consulting, not a Whole Brain Consulting.
Wow.
And they're like, we want to look at this. And I'm like, it does not work. And he's like, well, how do you know? I'm like, because I know I can look at this and tell you you're wrong, or I can charge you a bunch of money and tell you you're wrong. He came back three or 4 days later. He goes, charge me a bunch of money and prove to my team why I'm wrong. I'm like, so you want me to do a failing project? He's like, yeah, basically the board, which I'm like, oh, the board, this gets better. I'm like, yeah, of a, I mean, a huge privately held company wants to see the proof in it. We did it. We proved that after 5 years, they would still lose $500,000 a year.
Mm.
Um, so they took our word for it, and then they asked the question, what's the better way to do it? We showed them the better way to do it, and they reduced their distribution costs by 40%, had guaranteed fill rates. Um,
Nice.
yeah, it was transformative for the margin for that category. And then we gave them further ideas on how they could drive more efficiencies in the category. So if you think that you're unique, odds are you're not, or you're very close to something else that we've done. And
Agreed.
even when I think things are unique and my team members take it over, um, one that came to mind was a product that was like dehydrated, seasoned, baked, bagged, the whole bit. I looked at it, I'm like, there is literally no one I know that can do this. I'm like, we will try, but you got a 50-50 shot of success, and you have a 95% chance that you're going to have to put CapEx in to make this. And they're like, let's do it. Turned it over to Tony Rocco from my team, and he goes, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so can do it. I'm like, what the actual, and he goes, yeah, I did the project 15 years ago for such and such, a large strategic. He's like, didn't work then, might work now. But he's like, yeah, these are the two guys that can do it. So I, of course, called the client. I'm like, well, do you want us to vet out these two people? And he's like, I thought you were going to take this one to take 6 months and this. I'm like, are you upset that it was faster, or are you upset that it was under budget? Which one is
Right.
pissing you off? Because I can solve both of them. I can just sit here for 5 months, or I can charge you a whole bunch more money, whichever one works for you. And he was like, no. I just had explained to all my investors this was going to be a long project. We were going to have to chip out, probably 6-7 figures worth of capital. And now I'm like, hey, we got a home. I'm like, we have two people that can do it. We have to vet them. And he's like, oh, okay. So, even when I think things are like, wow, this is incredibly unique, my team's experience level is between 10 and 60 years. So they've seen a hell of a lot over the years. And it just really, I don't mind having egg on my face that way.
Right. No, great. Thank you for that explanation. What I do like about you guys is obviously you guys are no dummies. Smart group, a lot of talent and experience, but I think you approach everything pretty, with simplicity is what I'm trying to say. You don't jump to the conclusion before the conversation. You guys, for the most part, I think go in without preconceived notions. And like you said, you don't live within a box when you find your solution for them. And then lastly, if you guys feel you don't have the solution, this is where I would encourage anyone listening to get a hold of Will or Whole Brain, is if you guys feel that you don't have the solution, you typically know somebody that does. So, well said. Thank you for your time this morning. This can be found on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and LinkedIn.